The street from Out of the Mud Inc. And we're here with one of the producers, James Mayfield. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself and how he came to start Out of the Mud Inc. And we have our producer over there, Jacqueline, on the telephone line. So if you want to call in and be part of the show, call into 248-820-5053. That's 248-820-5053. And if you're watching us now live, hit like on there and tell us where you're calling from because we like to know how many people we're reaching out there. So welcome, James.
Thank you. I'm
I'm
delighted to be here.
glad to have you in the hot seat. And see, you all don't know that this is kind of the brains, one of the brains behind Out of the Mud Media. So tell us how you came to start Out of the Mud.
Well, I'm gonna give a shout out to George Cooper. He introduced me to George Grundy, and one day he called me. He was like, "Man, I got some people. I want you to meet some of my friends, and come on out to the house." So I pulled up over there. It was in the evening, and they were smoking cigars, had music playing. It was a little drink, and some chairs sitting out there on his street over there on
All
Piper.
right. Yeah.
And we went over there, and I had already met George and coming with dealing with the Big George already, but we never really done nothing. We talked and had a conversation. We both went our own way, and then so we sat down, we got the conversating, and then we was just talking about just life and getting it out of the mud. So we came up with the concept of
That's how you came up with the name Out of the Mud.
yeah.
And it's very organic. I like that. And chopping it up with the cigars like the big men do.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I like that idea too. But how did you think you would? What was the key to reach men or everybody, or just talk about what was going on?
Well, to be honest, when me and George first did it, we was thinking about just us, kind of selfish. Like, okay, you know what? We can interview people and find people that's got stories that got it out of the mud, like us. You know what I'm saying? And it was like it hit home because there's a lot of people in our community that been through some rut or been in and got it out of the mud, and now they're got aspirations to do better in life, or either they're doing better and walking in them steps. And I said, there's always a bad light on Flint, and we can shine this light because it's a lot of beautiful people with a lot of bright ideas that had to come from Flint and out of the mud to get there.
Yes.
So we started off like that.
Resilient community. And you're right. Everyone has a story, and it's just about reaching the right venue to get the word out there. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you and how many people you've interviewed and what was the feeling you got. And I see you like to talk to the OGs. I saw you cutting it up with Larry.
Yeah.
Larry White, one of the founders of entrepreneurship in the city of Flint.
Say that.
Back in my day, Larry was the man. I mean, if you wanted to put on something, that's who you went to.
Yeah.
You went to people that were out there doing it.
Yeah.
And the Piece of the Rock. And then he came back with the Piece of the Rock.
Came back with
the Rock.
And that was the first one we wanted to interview because, like you said, he plays a pivotal part in history in Flint and true entrepreneurship, on the street level and also on the business and corporate level. So that was the first person that we went out and we talked to and asked to interview. And it wasn't easy to get an interview from Larry at first, especially in his home. He kind of vetted us at first and then had us come over for a little while. And then he let us come back when he was comfortable, and we did it. So we went on to do other people like Kevin Wilson. We got some nice interviews from Leela Harvey McGee, Archie Heyman.
Oh, wow.
So we got some stuff in our vault from people that got out of the mud in the community. But since I came from the streets and that's where I was from and turning my life around, I wanted to interview a lot more people that I could relate to, that was role model, or people that had stories that were similar to stuff that I was interested in. So, and then George was interested in the people he was in. So we started doing that. And then we had this idea of like, me and George sat down and talked about like, let's not be selfish. There's other people in the community that want to get their word out, and let's let other people be a part of this. So we sat down and talked about that, and now here we are.
Yeah, and here we all are. And so if you out there feel like you have a story and you want to get your word out here and you want to get in contact with Mr. Mayfield and perhaps start your own show, your own podcast, that's who you do. Get in contact. Give us a call right now. Pick his brain. Find out if you've got what it takes to get on out of the mud. So, tell us a little bit more about yourself. We know you're a married man, happily married.
Yes. My beautiful wife sitting over there, engineer. I said, George out of town. I said, when we woke up this morning, I was like, you come down here and help me. I need you to push a few buttons and help me engineer this. And she said, yeah, I'm down.
All right.
So she over there helping out today.
I appreciate that too. She's actually a good integral part of this team, and she's an entrepreneur too. So you all wait, I'm going to be interviewing her too, because she's got a line of hypoallergenic makeup, and I'm going to be a tester. I got some of her product, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But give her a little thing to do right now. Give us a call at 248-820-5053 and see what we can put you on with. So tell us about a little bit of your history. You're into writing policy?
Well, actually, I went to school for policy to study and learn policy, because throughout getting my education going through school, I thought it was unique to learn about policy. I felt like that I needed to know, and it kind of sparked my attention when I was at Northwood, getting my bachelor's in business administration with a focus in management.
Yeah. Okay. And policy is something that we kind of fall short on. We feel that we've made certain accomplishments, and then we back off, and before you know it, policy has been changed, and we've lost out on affirmative action and other types of policy that we have made gains in. And what do you feel about that? Do you think Black people should be more concerned with policy or
I mean, yeah, because policy runs the world. You can't do anything. It's no business that you can go to. It's nothing that's up and running that doesn't deal with policy. Policy is a big part of our life every day. Every policy affects us every day, whether we walk into Starbucks to get some coffee, it's policies in there.
Yes,
so it's very important that us as people know policy or be into it, because policy
create it.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of things, like, for instance, policy with airplane. Like, let's say you miss a flight or something like that. You need to know that that particular airline has a policy, and you might be able to utilize that after so many hours of having to sit in the airport to know that, okay, now your flight should be free and you should have a room, versus them saying, you know what, sir, we'll get you on the next flight and give you a dinner.
And it's funny that they will not tell you that you are owed anything. So you have to know the policy in order to use it. And whether we want to face facts or not, policy was used against us as a people for many, many years. We look at marijuana legislation right now. Yeah. How many years have Blacks been incarcerated over simple possession or having that entrepreneurial spirit and wanting to sell it? But yet and still it was locking us up and taking the man away from the home and leaving women to rely on the state for subsidies. But now, as soon as the white man decided, okay, I'm going to stop being Speaker of the House and be the crying man and invest in marijuana fields and plantations in Ohio, we lost Boehner from the legislature, putting us in jail, to him making millions selling marijuana.
Well, it gets a little deeper than that, like at the beginning. So when you look at it, the history of the country with marijuana, it gets a lot deeper. When you think about, it was really to stop pharmaceutical from making money. So when it first was around, it had healing powers, and they knew that, but Big Pharma didn't want people to know that. So they actually scheduled it with heroin and Schedule 1 drug to say it's like the worst thing ever. So that way they can not be able to legalize and weaponize it.
As us and people. As a drug, marijuana. But hemp used to be the number one cash crop in America.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Thomas Jefferson that said every good American should grow so many acres of hemp?
Yeah. Actually, so they just really just used it pharmaceutical. They all got together with the politicians and They just say, hey, we're going to put it as a schedule of this, and then they patrolled our neighborhoods and did everything.
Even though they put it in our neighborhoods.
Yeah. But interesting, what people don't know, I had got a degree in cannabis law and policy too. So after I started studying policy, I said, you know what? I'm going to run over here to Northern Michigan University and study cannabis law and policy. And what's interesting about it, this is the first time that the government said we did wrong by people. And now we got social equity.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know about social equity. Social equity is basically just government saying we did wrong, and we're going to give you a playing field. We're going to level the playing field for you to be able to get into the cannabis industry.
And that's what we need to be concerned with right now. How can we level the playing field economically and get what is ours? How can we get out there and make this a business that's profitable for our people, medicinal as well as recreational, and as well as industry, making clothing and products from the hemp plant. I mean, it's easy enough to grow in several climates.
Yeah.
So it seems like we should be getting together and getting investment groups and investigating what policies are going to make our future, our economic future, more level. How can we get into this? Because so many millionaires and billionaires have been made in the last decade over marijuana.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Marijuana, something that we have finally said, oh, it's bad, it's this, it's that. And as soon as we decide, okay, it's not good for our people, it's the next way to make $1 million, the next easiest way. So I think that we should really invest in the oils and the CBDs and things that aren't so damaging to our people, but the recreational is not as profitable as the medicinal and making products from it. We should really invest in the cannabis industry and look for a way to get our own reparations to make the playing field economically level.
It's so many different things that people can jump into. You got to look at it by it being federally illegal still. Now, you know, they having talks about that. They're doing the research on the cannabis and seeing that the psychoactive. Push that button for me, babe, on the camera. This button I need you to push to. Get up every 30 minutes.
Sorry about that. We're right back here.
Yeah, I didn't tell her that. So yeah, that wasn't her fault. But that circle button right there, in about 15. So it's a lot of industries that we can get involved in, because once they legalize it on the federal level, we're gonna need people for designing websites. We're gonna need people for banking. We're gonna need lawyers because it's patents and people are gonna be suing people. We're gonna need accountants to be able to keep up with people's books for doing that. We're gonna need people to trim.
It's just secondary and third industries related to.
I believe personally, within the next, once they legalize it, well, it's gonna be like the prohibition of alcohol. I think it's gonna be like the top 3.
It or decriminalize it?
Decriminalize it.
Yeah, because that's what Biden said the last time he was running, is that he was going to decriminalize it. Now he's going to bring it up again because it's election time.
Yeah.
And
it's gonna be like the prohibition of alcohol, like they did, where it's gonna still have policies to it, but it's not gonna be illegal. Like that. I mean, it's gonna be descheduled from a 1 to a 3, which is gonna make it.
That does make quite a difference too. And if you ask me, alcohol should be scheduled, and really should. It's a lot more addictive and a lot more damaging to more communities economically than marijuana. But marijuana has also given back to the community and what they're required to do, built into legislation. How if they have a business that's making so much money, they have to give so much back to the community.
Yeah.
Not a lot of pharmaceuticals are doing that.
Not at all.
And I don't see any distilleries putting back into the community.
Right.
So,
but it's a lot of money for grants and things for the social equity part. So the social equity is, we patrol the neighborhood, we put people in jail, and it's the qualifications for us as people in Flint, we pretty much meet them. We're living in them neighborhoods where they patrolled and send people to prison. Right, we're living in them neighborhoods, or if you've been to jail or prison or have a misdemeanor for marijuana, there's just one or two of the things that you need to actually qualify to be able to get social equity. So it's like a reparation for people, but it's not just black; it's just any depopulated neighborhood or anywhere where they was patrolling at. So anybody in those areas
that was fell victim to the policies of the past now can benefit from the policies that are currently in place.
Yes.
So it's very important to know and look up the policy in your area, because it does vary from county to county.
Yeah.
So depending on where you live, you might have a cannabis shop every mile or two, or you might not have any at all, depending on how the community is representing the policy in that area. So know who you're voting for and know what you're voting for. Be aware of what policies are good where you live and what aren't, because I noticed I've smelled a lot of people smoking from their cars, and I don't think that's legal, is it?
I'm not sure. No, it's not really legal. No, it's not legal because it's not legal.
Do not be out there rolling and smoking. Okay.
Because they got some stuff coming down the turnpike where they'll know, like it's almost like a breathalyzer type thing.
Yeah, they're gonna hem you up. Yeah, they're going to. Yeah, don't drive while high.
And then that's the number one reason to give them reasonable cause to pull you out of your car and give you a hard time.
Yeah, because they can't profile you unless they make policy
that's what they like to
profile.
Exactly.
So that's why it's important to know policy.
Yes, I smell it. I smell marijuana. That gives them reasonable cause to search your car.
Yeah.
If they say they smell it.
It's very important that you know the laws. Don't just assume you know them. Know your laws and be up on it. And if there's something that we can do that's going to give us equity back into the community, we need to investigate it. I don't care if you're for it or against it. Anything that's going to bring us generational wealth, we need to investigate that. So tell us a little bit more about going to school for it. Now, anybody can get a degree in marijuana policy, and
it's different degrees. So it's kind of, so what I went for was cannabis law and policy. And what was interesting about that, they had classes to teach people how to grow cannabis too. And they was basically telling me that was the one that the people enrolled into. So as I was talking to counselors, it was like, no one ever enrolls into cannabis law and policy. So as I took that class and it was online, it was like, I felt like I was going to school with AI, because it was like the discussion boards and the things that I was doing, it was like, it wasn't a lot of people in there. And it was like, and they told me a lot of people don't even register. And he was kind of picking my brain, like, why do you want to go into that? Because I want to know about policy. It was like, it was almost unheard or taboo for me to want to do that. That's what really made it interesting.
It's a good field to go into then for people that are thinking about, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And so think about that. Think about going into law and or policy on laws that can actually equal the playing field. So tell us a little bit more about what was some of your grittier times in Flint, where you felt like you were doing things but you weren't getting what you wanted out of it, that made you think, okay, I've got stories to tell. Tell us about some of the trials you went through.
Man, I don't even know where to start. Just being in Flint and just the way I was raised and how I came up was just a trial and tribulation in my life that the Lord took me through, being in dark places and doing stuff or being around stuff that, younger kids wasn't involved in or wasn't seeing. And it just got to a point one day to where the ups and downs in life and what I was into, the risk start outweighing the reward.
Oh, okay.
And so I had to figure out to do something else different, because it was like, I can't continue to do this because it's only going to be two things: dead or in jail. So
it seems to be that those are the options for our young people. And that's why I want to talk to them about what is going on
push it hard,
other than getting in trouble? What can they look forward to? A lot of people, we used to have career day. Now we don't have career day. It's like everybody keeps saying, well, there's nothing to do and nothing to get into, and I don't want to do this. Well, entrepreneurship, uh, evening the playing field, finance, policy, these are areas that we typically don't get into, and we don't have role models. So how did you, what sparked you?
Well,
Did
I
you
always knew I was different and wanted to do different things. So, for instance, when I was in college and I was studying economics, they wanted me to take American at regular econ.
Yeah.
I didn't want to take that. I got to read in Austrian economics, which is something totally different. The Austrians they don't believe in the supply curve. They don't believe in the demand curve. They don't believe in nothing. They don't believe that they believe government's only place in our life is to help us protect our property rights. They don't believe in bailouts. And as I was reading that, I was like, this sounds real interesting. I want to take this. And once I took that and learned that and looked at it the way that they looked at economy and life, I was like, oh, I'm ready to do something different. So I got to looking at different degrees that I wanted to go into. And when I started looking at policy, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to get into policy. I want to learn how this world is rounded, because the only thing really about policy that I can explain and tell people is that policy has to be ratified, amended, or created. And them the three major things that policy. So if it's a policy that's around, it can be ratified, meaning it can be changed. People can change policy because they're the one that makes the policy and make the laws. We help affect policy. Amend it, which is changing it too, and then also creating it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's the only way to get truth to answer, our power to answer the truth, because we can't hold them, our politicians, accountable for what we don't know the policy is. Just like right now, I'm finding out that tax laws are federal and have no effect on state and local taxes. Like we have a law for housing with no teeth when it comes to the county.
right.
Our county administrators are doing what they want to do. Like you would think that they're accountable to the residents. If it's a position that's voted in, you're accountable to the residents. No, they're not. They're doing what they want to do. Let's just say you have a treasurer, and the treasurer says, okay, we promote home ownership and we want you to get your home back and to pay your taxes and do this. And they make those things available for you. Well, let's just say you have one that says, no, I don't care if you never get your property back. We're selling it to outside investors, foreign investors, and they're not into home ownership. They're into property management.
Yeah.
And so the property that you've just paid off, you can end up renting from somebody else or walking away from. And then I looked at Genesee County and I saw all the abandoned homes that aren't boarded up, that are left to rot. And it's really destroying our neighborhoods. It's destroying our cities. It's destroying our economy. And you say, well, who do you look to? You look to the treasurer. Well, the treasurer doesn't answer to anyone and refuses calls. Well, what do? How do you get enforcement on the policies that protect us for home ownership? Like you said, like the Australians believe.
Well, that's go. You have to read. You have to find that out, and it's somewhere. It's in a policy. It's somewhere.
It's somewhere, rules. And they're not telling you where.
Yeah, but once you find it, you can expose it. Because I watched. I don't know exactly how he found it, but Art Woodson, and at one point he said something about the schools and the type of dollars that was issued, and it was coming through another school, and they were living so good and all this, and he actually found it, and it went after it and got people to rally with him. And the next thing you know, the lady who was making all that money got fired or demoted. She wasn't making that money, and the money was being able to be channeled back to the schools per capita through the kids that was coming. So it's basically finding out where it's showing that it's legal, and having enough voices behind you to let them know we're not going to stand for the this is what it says, because when you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, that's it. When you don't know, you don't know. Yeah, and you ask the people that do know, and they're gaslighting you and telling you anything just to make time pass, and then you no longer have the ability to change anything. So how do we hold them accountable? By looking up policy. And then we get enough people together to rally behind us that are going through the same problems, losing their homes, losing their property, because it seems to me that it's insidious that taxes go up the older you get. Why is my property taxes going up? And when my income is going down and my needs are increasing, my medication cost, cost of living, I'm no longer working full time, and then the property taxes spike. And so then you fall behind, and then they don't tell you what policies or programs are available that can help you save your property until it's too late. Or they just gaslight you and tell you there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. And they're putting people out, and that's not proactive as far as getting the city back. And why do they keep saying, oh, we're for home ownership, when they're actually doing things that are against home ownership?
Keep building all these apartments around here,
and yes, keep shoveling people into renting, being renters and not owners. We're not owning our community anymore, and we're being taxed out of ownership. I don't understand this. And then they won't even give you an audience when you're trying to pay your taxes. I have the money, let me pay it. No, we don't want your money. I don't understand that at all. That's not progressive. And I'm trying to get a meeting with these people to find out what is really the policy, what's really going on, and why are you selling Flint off by parcels where you have to have 10,000 homes in a parcel, and you can't bid on it as an individual, even if you've been living there 50 years. It's being auctioned off in a parcel where you have to have $500,000 to $1 million to even bid on it. That doesn't make sense at all. That's not home ownership. What's Deborah Cherry doing?
Hey, I don't know.
I gotta look up some policy, y'all. Yeah, and I think everybody out there that has interest in property and is losing generational wealth, because typically for Black families, you only own the property for 2 or 3 generations before you're taxed out of it or zoned out of it, and you lose it. So it seems like it's a systematic land grab where they're continuing to grab people's property and make it look normal, like it's policy. This is just policy. It's just normal. It's not normal, because it seems like it's happening more frequently in Black neighborhoods and Black cities. And they've even shortened the time from 3 years to foreclosure to 2 years for foreclosure. So it seems to me that this land grab is getting to the point where we can't even afford to be homeowners anymore. In the future, in 2 or 3 generations, we're going to all be renters. Maybe that's what they want. I do think that's what they want. I want you to call in now to 248-820-5053 if you know anything about this, or if you know someone who's suffering from the same stealing land grabs. Municipal land grabs is what I'm calling it, because it doesn't seem like it should be this difficult to get an audience with an elected official.
Right.
Or even bid on your own properties. Or buy properties in your neighborhood. There's a house in my neighborhood, which is a upper middle class neighborhood, homes starting at about 190,000, 170 to 190. And people are being put out their homes. And now the neighborhood's starting to suffer for it. Nobody knows what happened. The house is just all of a sudden empty. The grass is growing up 2-3 feet. And the homes where I live are mostly sub-pump homes. So they're going to float off their foundation with nobody paying the electricity. They're just going to become wasted properties in great neighborhoods. So you need to talk to your county treasurer if you notice a home like that, and find out if they're selling it off and bidding it off in parcels to foreign investors, because that's gonna affect your neighborhood. That's gonna affect your property value. But that's all about knowing policy.
And anybody got any questions for me about, certain things about policy, or questions you might just want to ask me about just life or whatever, y'all can call in too. I have some good things to add in, because I did a lot of self-development before I actually stepped in this space also, as I was going to school.
Okay. Trying to tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
how you soul searched out there for what you wanted to do. What did you go through to get to that point of, I got to make a change?
Just hard lessons.
Hard
lessons, like just learning stuff and seeing a lot of stuff, and knowing that I wanted better for me, my family, and for myself as an individual.
Usually it's
prayer,
the family and the church that kind of inspires us and shapes us to want better and want more. Did you find that when you got married, that you wanted to?
Yeah, I wanted more. I already had children, family, wife, and just wanted to do better and be out here and actually be a productive citizen in the community and be able to give back also. So it's just, I found it all in once.
That's very important, giving back, and having a sense of purpose, and teaching your children how to have purpose. Like they say, you got to know where you came from to know where you're going, or what potential you have to get there.
Yeah, but I think as far as with the children, for me, it's more of showing, like walking in them steps, showing them what a man's supposed to do, or what a man look like, or not. Because you could tell somebody, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, but I like to try to show by leading by example.
That makes
what's
sense.
Possible, what's the possible, instead of just trying to say, you do this, you do that, and they kind of sitting there, because I was a kid once, or you ain't doing it, what you want me? Oh, it ain't working for you, so why you want me to do it? You know,
you got all this advice.
You got all this advice, and you doing this, or you looking like that, and you not really making nothing happen. So I think it's more of leading by example. But the self-development part was, reading books, listening to a lot of audio, different things online, and kind of finding my lane and what worked for me.
We want to back up. He said reading books. People, you still have to read. You got to sit up here and crack a book open, get some information. You just don't get life by just wandering through it. You become a reactive being, because you're just reacting to the stimuli. You got to go out there and search for some information and discover some things in order to broaden your horizon.
Following from
Africa. Hello, Africa. Who's out there calling us from Africa? Oh, hey, Banty, what's up?
They just left the comment on it.
Okay, when Dewan gets there, tell him that you were checking out On the Mud Inc.
Out of the Mud
Inc.
Yeah, but not just also just reading. Sometimes I like audiobooks. So if I'm doing certain things, I can put on the headphones and listen to a lot of audiobooks, and it's powerful. And it's what you put in. You got to protect your eyes and your ears.
That's
what
true.
You listen to and what you see.
Ourselves. It's what we feed ourselves, what we feed our mind, what we feed our heart, what we feed our body. It's all part of the complete man. So we really do have to take information in. And I think that one of the best places to start is at your public library, because you can find things that you didn't even know existed just by perusing through there and traveling from where you are.
Yeah.
Broaden your horizons.
And then it's getting up out of here too sometimes.
Traveling
and being able to look in from the outside. You'll get a better understanding. I went out to Utah with Miss Bonner and some people I met while I was going to school, and that was a great experience, and that was a life-changing experience. And some of the things that I learned down there to be able to bring back, and tools that I got from down there, helped make me a better person. And being able just to look inside of the rut that you in and be like, oh, because you can't see it when you're in it.
When you're in it, you can't see you're in the valley.
You can't
when
see
you're
it.
Down in the valley. You got to get up on the mountain
and then
to see the valley.
Right, you got to.
Yes, it's very important to broaden your horizons, get out there, travel. I tell people it's so important to travel, leave the country, go out there and see other countries, what they're doing. Go to the Bahamas, seeing other countries and how they run things. It gives you a greater appreciation for what you can do here in your own city and the resources that we have. And we look at people in our own communities and we don't think outside of that. Think outside of that. It doesn't matter where you are, it matters where you're at up here. So you've got to travel, you've got to read, you've got to listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so you can listen twice as much as you talk. So having that curiosity is very important. I think that it sparks something. And as you said, you had a good teacher, a good mentor that actually showed you some things. So that's important too.
Yo, definitely mentors is very important to building. You know, my father was a great mentor to me, you know, even though the way he brought me up was unorthodox and most people look at it as like, I don't know if I would have raised my child like that, but he raised a great man, and the values that he showed me, even though it was the things that we did and things that he showed me that, you know, it's kind of not of the norm in the community, but
yeah,
being able to take the values and be able to use them in, you know, the corporate world, the business world, it made me the person I am today, and I wouldn't take it back.
Fathers are very important. I believe Black fathers, especially because they're not only fathers to their family, they're fathers to the community. They can see other boys in need that need that example of how to be a man, how to be productive and how to get out of a rut. And they look for that in the same sex, in the same sex mentor or parent. So it's good to be out there to show these kids. My father was a scoutmaster. He used to take kids fishing and out to the lake in the sportsman club, teaching kids how to golf. And we were like, why is he doing this for the whole community? You know, but we didn't realize that there were a lot of kids out there that didn't have that. And so it was important for him to be there. But those were the people that they tried to remove from our community. Because when we were growing up in the hood, they came to buy our house and the expressway didn't touch it. But they took every productive Black man out of that community. And it seems like it was by design, and we didn't even see it. We didn't know what redlining was going on, didn't really affect us. And yet we had bought property, we had wealth in the property, but they capped it out. They said that eminent domain means you got to move, and you're only going to get so much. So then my father said, they're not going to do this to me again. I'm going to move to a white community. So then we can get some wealth that's going to stabilize, and we're not going to keep losing and fighting to gain inches when we should be gaining miles in these years. So
and I want to give another shout out to my mother, which was a mentor, but she was harder than my father. So, you know what I'm saying? That's real though. Yeah, that's real talk. Like, now, so
Black women were,
so like it was like
else back in the day.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of good gems and tools that she gave me, because my father was more subtle, soft spoken, you know what I'm saying? Very intelligent and powerful, but she was the grit, the head buster, the enforcer. Like, so my mother. So I don't know about everybody else. So I wanted to give her a shout out.
Black women. And give a shout out to all these Black mothers out here, because they're forced to be reckoned with. And I know a lot of people have heard, I was your mother and your father. Well, it takes 2, but Black mothers, ooh, that's something. My mother was the first OBGYN supervisor at Hurley in 1955.
Oh,
and when she got there, and people were like, you're not going to touch my baby. And yet and still, she put up with that. She was the first. She said she had to cut teeth on Flint. She said she had never dealt with such prejudice. We got a call in.
Oh, just hit the button on the side. On the side of the phone.
Volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my mother was the first in many ways. She went to Yale. She was psychiatric nursing. She was a nursing instructor, OBGYN at Flint, St. Joseph Hospital. Brought them from a standard to third in the nation in the School of Nursing. And she just felt like, hey, everybody is an ambassador for our race. And I was like, why do I have to be an ambassador? She said, you're going to be out there at Bentley. You're going to represent me and our name. So put your best foot forward. I was like, but I'm the only Black kid. They don't want me there. And she said, it doesn't matter. They want you there. I want you there.
Right.
And her saying was, I can, I will, and I must. There's no such thing as can't or failure. So we were out there, and I remember the first day I walked into the middle school gym-atorium. I looked up and I said, oh, they need to go to school, gym-atorium. Whoever heard of a gym-atorium? But I walked in the gym-atorium, and it was a gymnasium / auditorium. And every place I walked, it was like the parting of the Red Sea. White people just shh, shh, shh. And I was like, okay, this is a game. So I did like that. I watched them all scatter. And then somebody said, it's a nigger. I had never been called out of my name like that in my life. And so I was like, this is Burton, Bentley school system. We were the first to integrate Bentley school systems. And it was a journey. It was a journey, but I learned that I was a representative because a lot of those kids had never seen a Black person in person, and this was 1970. So I went there, and we were the only Black family right up until I was in the 10th or 11th grade. And by then, I was like, just let me go. Just let me get out of here. I didn't care if I was the only one or the last one or 1 to 10. I was just like, let me graduate. Let me graduate and get about my business so I can make my life better than going through this prejudice and stuff. But it was something. We had a cross burnt in our yard where I live now. The Grand Dragon lived down the street, and they weren't for it. And they put human feces in our swimming pool. We lived through all of that stuff. And it's just part of growing up resilient and knowing that it doesn't matter what's thrown at you. You're stronger than anything that can come at you because you're going to make it through. This too shall pass. So it made me the person that I am today. And I don't hold any hatred in my heart towards any race. I just feel like everybody has to go through something in order to know what they're capable of. So let's just all pull together because there's not all these different races that people keep saying there's. It's only one race, the human race. And when we start thinking that way, a lot of this prejudice and racism and bigotry will just melt away. Because it doesn't make a difference. We're more alike than we are different. And we have to change the narrative where we're from. And I think that's what Flint is. It's very resilient. And every citizen here is a phoenix coming out of the ashes.
Yeah,
or
definitely resilient.
As Mr. Mayfield, coming out the mud.
Out of the mud. The greatest Mayfield came out of the mud.
Banty says, talked to Dewan 2 days back. He's in Egypt, and I expect to talk to him tomorrow. Thank you both for this great, productive discussion. It is so good for the community and culture. We are learning from it too here.
Push the buttons.
Thank you, Banty. We really appreciate the comments. And wherever you're watching us from, hit us up and let us know where you're watching us. Like us, share us, and join us for other productions of Out of the Mud.
Yeah, and shout out to Dewan, man. We see you out there representing Africa, man. Shout out. We like so Brother Dewan over here. Yeah.
We're so proud
Good
of you.
representation going over there, man.
Yeah.
Good representation.
Uniting our people.
Yeah, much needed. You've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, I know.
Yep,
I know.
back and forth.
Very proud of him. So we got a few more minutes. There's something you want to talk about, something you want to touch on?
All I want to say is that I think my thing is it's never too late. You know, I'm 41 now. I think I changed my life, turned my life around maybe almost 8 years ago.
Wow.
So it's like it's never too late. You know, it's a lot of people that you look at that's entrepreneurs like Colonel Sanders. He might have been 50 something before he actually got his big break. He didn't give up. He just kept on trying to fry that chicken and get it up out here, and he couldn't do it. But you got to imagine he got to about 50 something before he actually
found a good recipe from that lady.
Yeah. To actually go into business and make money. You got the guy from Kirby.
Yeah.
He was in his 50s or maybe close to 60 before he got the Kirby vacuum machine off and got that together.
Kirby.
That's older, but I'm just saying, like, so I like to use that. It's never too late.
That most people that are successful, they don't get successful until after they hit,
earlier age.
I tell people all the time, you don't succeed your way to success. You fail your way to success. You've got to go through a lot of trials and errors to find something that really works and fits you well. And everyone out there has a purpose. You just have to stay on it to discover what your purpose is and make your purpose serve you.
And what I like to listen to is one of my favorite speeches, and you can find your purpose in it. And I like to listen to it at least 4 or 5 times a year. And that's Martin Luther King's speech, Your Blueprint. Yeah. That's powerful. It's 20 minutes. You can listen to it, and it really does something for me. Yeah, sparks something in me.
If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl.
Yeah. By any means.
Yes. Yeah. You got to make it happen for yourselves. And being aware is one way to do that. And if you've got something to give, mentor. Reach out to some of these people out here that are in need of a mentor. And if you want to know where you're going to be in 10 years, look at the people you're hanging around. If they're not where you want to be in 10 years, you've got the wrong circle. You need to put yourself in a place to succeed by being around successful people and people that you can learn from. Find yourself a mentor. Find yourself someone that knows policy. Find yourself someone to talk to that's inspirational. Find somebody doing something.
And what I would like to say for the men out here, me running and wanting to find mentors, I found some of the best mentors in women. Because one thing about it, I found out about the older men as gatekeepers that you ask to be a mentor. At first with me, I can't say everybody else. At first, when I say I want you to mentor me, I want to learn this. And they get to feeling my vibrations and knowing who I really am, they start gatekeeping. And they start running away because I'm aggressive. I'm gonna tell you what I want. I'm not gonna try to be the spook by the door. I'm not about to wait all forever for you to give me the information. I'm gonna say, this is what I want. Can you give me this? And I just be real aggressive. But women are more nurturing, and they will give you the game if you ask me before another older man will. So that's just what I gotta say. Yeah. I didn't experience it. Yeah. And y'all know who y'all is. For real.
It's true. It's true. If you're out there and you're wanting to do something, find somebody else that's doing that already.
Exactly.
And shadow them. Ask them, is it okay for you to take notes, to get out there and do what they're doing, experience something, change your own narrative.
Make sure y'all have an understanding of what you're looking for with this shadowing, and think of a way ahead when you're asking these questions, because they'll only give you so much unless you know what you really want. And you let them know, ain't no waiting, I'm gonna get it over time. No, ask them up front. Ask them up front. This is what I expect to get out of this. How long is it going to take for me to get this? so they don't just string you along and give you a little bread and come on, little puppy. And next thing you know, you'd have wasted a year or two under mentorship where you could have just asked them in that first couple of hours and they would have told you, oh no, I ain't giving you all that. I had to work hard to get that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna just give you that.
Yeah, you need to get only so much exposure. You need to get experience. So when you get that experience, make sure it's something that's going to serve you, not serving them. Okay, people. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Word on the Street with Mr. Mayfield.
And we'll be back for a part 2.
Yes, we're definitely going to hit part 2, and we're going to get on some of these structured programs and things that you can do. Well, thank you very much. And we're going to send a shout out to George F. Grundy, our favorite junior, our favorite veteran. And hope to see you next week, George.
Shout out, George. See you when you get back, man. And it's been sponsored by 369 Consulting and Logistics. Follow, like, share. I've been seeing a lot of y'all. I've been asking y'all to share and follow. A lot of y'all, if y'all want to talk about a show, y'all can reach out to me and George. We can talk about it. But please share.
Please
like,
share.
And subscribe.
And tell us where you're watching us from.
Peace.
Thank you. Bye-bye.